Hello, I'm Debbie Bell-Hosking for Finextra TV here at Sibos 2023 in Toronto. And I'm joined by Alastair McGill of Broadridge, and we're chatting about data control frameworks and reimagining reconciliation. So Alastair, welcome.
Debbie, nice to meet you.
It's great to be here at Sibos 2023. It's a bit noisy, so we'll see how well we go.
It's good, it's great to have everybody back in person.
Exactly, there's nothing wrong with extra noise, is there? Let's get straight into it. Operation teams of banks and financial institutions, they've got a lot of challenges to think about, especially now with they've got to think about the impact of T+1, adoption of ISO 20022. There's a lot going on. How do you think the industry is going to manage all these changes?
You're absolutely right. There's a huge amount going on. So what we try to do is talk to our clients around thinking about how do you have a operational control framework that can flex with you. So you mentioned the move to 20022. With that, you've got a change of message type, and then within that message type, you've got a lot more information that you can have. So people need to think about how do they have those frameworks that can consume that information. That's the first thing. The second thing is thinking about data integration. So how do I quickly get that data into my organization? How can I get it in? How can I normalize it, enrich it, and make that useful? Because that's data's at the heart of everything that we do. And then I think the biggest challenge you mentioned T+1. So T+1 brings a dimension of timing as well as data. So for an awful lot of people, they now have a condensed processing window to deal with. So one of the things that we see is the continued migration to cloud to give you that elasticity and that processing capability to really reduce the processing times required. So those are some of the things we end up talking to clients about.
So there's a lot to talk to your clients about. And with that, Broadridge has just launched its next generation reconciliation and matching platform, and it's called BRXmatch. So how does this help your clients get a better data control framework? And also, I have to ask you, why and how is it different to what else is out there?
Okay, well, maybe let's start by thinking about what our clients are wrestling with. So in the reconciliation world, reconciliation is one term, but it covers a very wide spectrum of opportunities, of activities, from doing really complex reconciliations to simple reconciliations, and then there's people who actually want to be hands-on and do stuff themselves. And really, to date, we've found that there's been no one platform that's enabled companies to kind of cover that spectrum of stuff. So that's one thing. So the onboarding of more X faster across that spectrum. Second thing is people need to acquire data more quickly, more easily. A reconciliation is only as good as the data you can get in, and one of the things that stops people onboarding reconciliations quickly is getting access to the right data. So that's the second thing. I guess the other thing we're seeing in the Rex world is people thinking about AI and how do they use AI going forward. And finally, and I've touched on it already slightly, but this ability to really get your hands out and do self-build reconciliations becomes really important. So those are things that people are kind of trying to juggle with. So we've looked at that, we've worked with a number of clients, and we've come up with what we think is a really interesting approach to reconciliations. We talk about hybrid reconciliations, and I'll give you an analogy of a hybrid car that everybody's familiar with, which is you have two power sources that drive the vehicle forward. As a user of the car, what you really care about is, do I get to my destination on time? You're not really too worried about whether it's the battery or the fuel or the petrol that's giving you momentum at that point in time. And that's what we think about from a reconciliation perspective. People who are living their lives, performing reconciliations every day, they need to make sure that they've got the reconciliation completed, and then they're working on the exceptions at the right point in time for them. And what we've created is one engine that is really good and excels at doing complex reconciliations, and one that is really good for inter-system data integrity and self-build reconciliations. Both of them in a single framework with a single UI, making it really easy for clients to choose the right tool for the right job. And you talked about frameworks. We keep all of that within a single audit and control framework, so that everybody inside the organizations and regulators can understand who's taken what action with what data at what time, and that they are compliant with the roles that they should have been performing. So we think it's a really different approach to the reconciliation market.
And ultimately trying to make it simpler for the client to manage.
Simpler for the client to manage, put the power of a reconciliation tool into the hands of a business user, so you don't have to be a subject matter expert to use the tool. There are 5 simple steps that anybody could build a record in a matter of minutes, and it's incredibly intuitive. And yeah, we're trying to use intelligence as much as we can in the system to help people do that.
And it's that word AI that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk about AI for a long time, but how do you see, and what role do you see AI playing when it comes to data control frameworks?
The use of AI, it could be huge across everything, and we've got numbers of ideas, but actually bring it down to what's in production today. I'll give you a really good use case. One of our larger clients had an issue that they were trying to accelerate the start of their day for many of their reconciliation operatives, which was identifying breaks from a reconciliation solution and getting them into the hands of the people that are going to repair those breaks and then get it back into the STP flow. So we use AI and machine learning to look at, okay, for each of those breaks, based on history, where did they go to last time, who resolved them, how were they resolved, and can we automate that whole process? So now, every morning those breaks are automatically distributed to the right people in the right part of the organisation with suggested fixes, so that people can look at that, validate it, maybe challenge it, but ultimately accelerate the correction, if you like, the repair of that transaction and get it back into the STP flow. So that's one area. The other area in the self-build reconciliation I was just talking to is, we try to let the system do as much of the intelligent work as possible, like putting the correct fields together, identifying potential match rules, and then really it comes down to the user to validate that that is right, rather than to do all the hard work to begin with. So lots of good use cases. The important one is just trying to make sure that there's a quantifiable ROI for the clients spending their investment dollars in this technology.
Thank you, Alastair. It's such an interesting space to talk about, and there's so much to cover. So I really appreciate your insight today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.